and what you're running it on, and just so you're expecting things correctly. So I just wanted to show you that. I have a lot of options from there. So the case I opened up here, I have Mr. Durden's image of his machine here, and oh shoot, I moved it. That's what I did. So tell you what, when you add evidence now to start off your case, after you set it up, you can add a local device just like you normally would with a write protector, something that's tethered here. You can add an existing evidence file if it's something that was acquired before, prior, or from somebody else. You can add your like DD images, other types of raw images. You can acquire a smartphone. Smartphones are tethered devices also, and that's true with our forensic and our enterprise tool. So I would have to have my BlackBerry and my cable. I would have to plug it in. So you can basically image with just about any smartphone you want, but you have to have the connector to go to it using the cable itself. Yeah, with a USB or whatever you have. Use most of USB.
The phone's cable or with a generic cable?
Any cable will work. It has to fit. So you have the USB, the micro USBs, and then the other 1,000 other ones that are out there for the variety of things. Most of our development has focused around the more common ones, obviously. The iPhones, the BlackBerries, you're going to have some Symbian, you're going to have a variety, but it focuses around it. And I'll show you, I'll tell you what, I'll show you that right now. When you acquire a smartphone, if I was to plug this device in right now to a port, it write blocks itself. You don't have to have special writeware blockers for a BlackBerry or anything else. This is what's supported: the Apple iOS, BlackBerry, Android, the various Windows mobile phones, Palm, and it also has a SIM card reader component here as well, because many devices have a SIM card. Now, what's available on these different systems depends. The hardware and the structure of the operating system and the physical device itself. Some have a lot more available, some don't have as much. The user settings, do I overwrite that small amount of space for temporary stuff? Do I store text files? Do I have a lot more extra room? Do I take tons of pictures and overwrite all that other stuff anyway? It depends on the user and a lot about the environment. The nice part is say I have an Apple phone. I click this. The very first thing it does is it tells me just a little pop-up hint warning, and first few times through it's really nice to have. Make sure you have Apple iTunes installed but not running. So that's great. Make sure you do that obviously before you start playing. With a BlackBerry, there's nothing required. One of the reasons is we issue out company BlackBerries, so they make it very, very simple for our internal people to do it as well, and we do a lot of heavy-duty testing on whatever else it is we use. So if you go to an Android phone, make sure under the menu setting applications, unknown sources, make sure these things are enabled. So it gives you the checklist right in front of you every time you select it. Now, if I plug this phone in, under devices right here, it's going to say installed or connected device, and it would list BlackBerry 8851, whatever my model number is, and go from there. So backups, we can take iTunes files, backup files, and your IPD, whatever it is. Was it IDP? Is that what the BlackBerry files are called? I'm drawing a blank. I'm kind of embarrassed. But that is what you get. And then over here, you can acquire whatever you want. If I had a device connected, it would enable this box, and I can pick out just which one of these or all that I'm interested in. You don't have to grab everything. And again, what's available? A lot of it depends on the phone and the settings of the user and things of that nature.
Question. Two of them, actually. Number one, does the phone, I don't want to say smartphone, does the phone have to be turned on?
Yes.
Okay. If there is a password on it, do you have to have a password?
Yes.
Okay. Because like mine now, there was some new law about, that was passed, I think in Florida, which we incorporated, where now, since this is tied directly to my Outlook and there could be client information in here, I now have to have this password protected, my device itself.
Okay.
So if I handed you my phone, but you didn't have the password to get into
Sure.
it would not be able to pull off.
Correct.
Okay.
And a very big disclaimer right there and warning from a use case scenario. The policies and procedures of your phone apply when you're accessing it. When you're entering the password here and you're wrong, 8 times? If you've got auto wipe set up after 8, you're going to wipe the phone. So you need to know the settings. I mean, it's like anything else. Know what you're doing, practice, test a little bit. But yes, you do have to have the password right now. Absolutely.
And then, this is a future question where I think you may be going, so I want to ask from a case that we had, is what's the purpose of this group, right?
Sure.
We had a circumstance, obviously we didn't use EnCase, I shouldn't say that, I think we used, no, obviously we didn't use EnCase.
Not going to hurt my feelings.
Because the smartphone app is brand new, right?
No, actually, we used to sell it separately as a thing called Neutrino, but it's now just built in. But yeah,
I don't know what Rob used.
there's Cellbrite. There's about 6 quality tools out there, and they all have strengths.
We
sure.
had a circumstance with a client's in-client smartphone where a person was a habitual texter. Okay, I mean they text
my wife.
all over. I mean,
Sure.
200 or 300 messages per day.
Wow.
Okay. Well, this guy was either going to quit or was going to get let go, whatever it was. And one of our questions, we needed an operating system, we needed to know if there's a password on there. We needed to see if it had been restored to factory settings. Because if you did that, it would wipe everything out.
Sure.
None of that had been done. So when we did the capture of the smartphone, we came back with the entire phone log was there, the contact directory was there, the call history was there, but the text messaging was almost empty.
That's very common because it's not created to be stored.
Okay.
You have to have.
But what we did find, whatever we used, I don't know what it is.
It's a cache.
Yeah, it's designed to be reused. That's the small limitation is to.
But what was done over the weekend, because you could tell by the files that were on there, over I think it was 2 gigabyte of graphic files were downloaded over a very short period of time, and so it's to the phone. So
Wow.
the conclusion was no, he did not do anything. I should have said he, the person, but he did not do anything to sabotage the phone. Well, the lawyers can
Sure.
argue that about that, but evidently on the new smartphone architecture, that was the first thing that gets pushed off of the edge, because there were I think it was 1,600 photographs were now in the phone.
Sure.
So they squeezed everything else out?
Squeezed everything else out.
Yeah.
Because, and the thing is, they seized,
Might as well, it's
on
like wiping
Monday.
it.
Well,
That's exactly what it is.
What-
It's like wiping it.
Yeah.
They're just not doing it with zeros, they're doing it
With
data.
yeah, it's an overwrite
And
either way. Yeah,
as
Yeah.
you're probably going to say with having your end comment, as you tell to any client when you're doing a capture of anything, okay, we're not guaranteeing you anything. It's going to cost you some money to do this, and we can come back with a big fat zero. We can come back with everything, or we can come back with whatever there is. And until we actually get into it, we're not going to know. They said, oh no, we took it on this date. And he said he didn't do anything, and everything, the last call made was here. All the legitimate information was there, except that the text,
Sure.
which was where the activity the evidence that they wanted was gone.
But there's usually
not
only
maliciously erased.
Again, you'd have to have the phone and the specs and, like I said, the configuration down really well. But generally speaking, text is not designed to just keep flowing throughout all available space. It is confined because, they're designing this to let the pictures take it, because most people are going to want, I would rather have 100 extra pictures on my phone than go back and see that Rob and I texted each other. Where did we meet for lunch 2 weeks ago? That's email. It's not a record. It's a conversation. So it's user experience that it's designed for. But yeah, there's not much you can do. Had he not put those pictures on there, there's still probably a good chance you would not got a lot of that.
Oh, I
Maybe no, or the bulk of it.
I think it's like you said, whatever the memory is dead, first in, first out.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And that's how I explained it to the attorney. I said, just, which my understanding, remember, I'm not the technical guy, I'm the sales guy, one of the sales guys. The memory, smartphones don't have any moving parts, in their memory.
Other than the vibrator.
Other than the vibrator. Unlike a computer or everything that has a hard drive spinning hard drive on there. So the way memory or information is stored is very, very, very different. But as I explained to him, first in, first out, that is the information out. As a sidebar, I said, well, what we need to do now is we need to see where he used his iTunes download from his computer to see if that information had gotten into there. you know, that he didn't think, he wiped it here, but didn't think that it would be on
Like
there.
a backup.
Right.
Backup files maybe or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, those were my two questions.
somewhat kind of related, not quite for as far as downloading, but pictures. And I wish I had it set up here. I just we had a user group in Ohio, in Columbus, not too long ago, and Jeff Danielson, my the solutions consultant that I usually work with, he showed something really cool. And it's somebody, it wasn't one of the guidance employees, I don't believe, but wrote an end script. And what it does is it takes from photos that were taken off mobile devices or the newer cameras that have the coordinates built in, the GPS units. It takes the XFID.
No, XFID geotag.
Yes, exactly. It takes those and actually pops open Google Earth and drills it right down, so you get the whole globe. It's a nice visual presentation, but it shows where the pictures were taken and puts the timestamps, and it's a really neat little piece to come back with that. All that being said, cell phone forensics to me are just no different than PC forensics, the various flavors of Windows, and then the Mac and Unix and stuff. It's a specialty. It really, really is, because of all the variety and what, you know. I've got a pretty deep expertise in a few Windows operating systems and kind of a shallow but broad in some areas, to put it politely.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. Yes. So what I just did while we're talking here is I brought in another evidence file. It is my BlackBerry phone here, okay? And I had already, it's not showing up because I haven't processed it for this case, but I'll tell you what, where's that? Here. I ran all processing options against my BlackBerry, and again, it'll take too long to do it here, but I just said, I checked every box, again, in a little wizard that pops up there and says, give me all these things. Go. Matter of fact, while that opens up, I will show this to you. When you click Process Evidence, and again, I'm sorry, this is a horrible machine. You see a little evidence processor in the bottom right corner is one of the new pieces we have. It builds up. It will come up and ask me some questions. While that's coming back up here, and again, that's just because I have a slow full machine here, this is what I said to include in my report. Again, I checked everything, contacts, call logs, messages, everything that I could. Again, this is just my BlackBerry. Now, my BlackBerry doesn't have a phone on it because we have to, the last three places I was at, you have to leave them at the reception. You can't take them into the building. There's confidential IT security rooms we're going in. They will not let you take cameras in, so you have to show your phone. If there's a camera on the back, you surrender it there and get it on your way back out. And I was like, I didn't have any cell reception anyway, so it really didn't matter. But I don't have a phone because I was in professional services for a good bit of time here. So this is the text data. This isn't the case report. This is just the smartphone report. Anything of this that I would have flagged inside the tool or checkmarked or bookmarked or tagged would come back out in the case report. But this is what it lets you see, again, just by default. I have in my BlackBerry 1,803 contacts. It's an old phone. I've had the same one for about 3 years. I don't text very much, obviously, and it doesn't keep a long history. I don't know how many texts I have or haven't done, but as soon as I overwrite that or delete them, they're gone because it's not static memory. Had I turned in and entered everything else right, I get my serial number, and it'll give you the make and model of the phone in the actual report. But you start going through here, and here are all my contacts. By default, it'll truncate it to 1,000 rows because most people don't want to see every one of your contacts. Within the tool of EnCase, I can see the same view of all these contacts, and I can select which ones I would want. That's generally what I would run to pop that out. But I just wanted you to see this is the information. It doesn't get their address. It's the smartphone stuff. And again, I sync mine with calendar, so it stops at 1,000 or so here, hopefully. And I'll get to the... yes. Yeah, just like if I opened up contacts, and I have, however I have them sorted, when I acquire it, that's how they're going to go. In this case...
At that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then this looks like it's by first name because that's how I have mine entered all in, is by first name, last name. That's how I display mine on my phone here. And now it's looking like it's not doing it that way. So, you know what?
I think it's always raw stored on the phone, so the order is on the phone.
It is. This is by company.
And some of it's not sorted, actually, I think, isn't it?
Yep. Oh, I skipped over something here.
The phone didn't sort it.
I saw a name that I
I'm into the calls here. Here we go. So I'm coming up to the end of my contacts. Now I'm into my call logs. And again, you see this information inside the tool. You can sort it any way you want, and then that's the way it will export out. So if you want it by alphabetical order, if you want it by company name, if you want it by call types, which would be missed, connected, whatever they call it. So these are all of my missed calls, date, time stamps, the phone number, contact name, if it's entered in my contacts. It doesn't do any outside research to validate the phone. If I don't have...
If I had called you and you didn't say my name, it would just come up as...
Your phone number would show. Exactly. Exactly. And I can't sync with my Outlook right now, so anybody I've met in the last 6 months is probably not in there. I think it's too full, quite honestly. So obviously missed calls have a 0 time duration over here. And let me get a little farther down here, just to show you some very basic stuff. Now dialed and received calls, who I talked to and how long I talked to them, when I talked to them. So that's some basic information, and that has as much as is stored in the phone. There's not a limitation on the application to pull that out. The phone device itself will only store so much. Now I can delete my call history. I have administrative rights on my machine. If I delete that and run this report, that section is going to be blank. That's just how it is.
It's pretty obvious to stand out. Sort of thumb that's been deleted.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Which in itself is something of a machine.
Yeah.
Which comes up because another one of the questions in the previous case that the client
It's user behavior. I mean, it's...
can you recover deletes?
Generally speaking, no, because it's flash memory. It's not hard written on there. Yeah.
Rob's answer was yes, maybe.
It's always a possibility. It depends on what's there. There's no way of knowing.
You line up 3 identical phones that have the same amount of memory.
Yep.
The call to what's been done on them, you'll get 3 different results.
Some newer flash technologies, they actually erase as you delete.
Exactly.
Whereas older ones may not.
Right.
So
Exactly. And so I always like to say no, but there is a chance if certain conditions are right. Because if you say yes, and that attorney's like, blah, blah, blah. I've heard yes. I was like, I didn't commit to doing that. So the text, right here, the number, sent, received, or read, excuse me.
Oh, we're seeing all your messages. This is good.
Yes, we are. Yes. I showed up at a cabin in Tennessee, and my brothers and my dad were there before me, and they took off to play golf. And so I looked in the table, and they had a big bottle of scotch. So I just said, "You're playing without me. I'm drinking your scotch."
Yeah.
So let them know that. My sister is a little old, but just had a baby. One going to college and one in diapers. Giving her a hard time. That my wife says she loves me. So anyway. We'll see about that. And then we get into the emails. You know, just by default, the report here doesn't show the content off the phone. What it shows is, was it read, was it typed, sent, the date stamp for that, the sender or recipient, just the main one. Again, default settings alone on the report. There could be other people CC'd or a variety of people. It takes the first one off. And then the subject line. And by default, that's what's included in this report. The full message, and obviously everything else is fully available, searchable inside. So, I've got too much emails here. I'm going to skip through some of those as well. Sorry, I should have just cut a bunch of these out.
Trying to position itself to capture some of the review market?
Not at all with our EnCase forensic product. No, it's a different tool. It's a different application, truly. For legal review, what we are doing, though, however, that is really nice is I was just in the Cleveland area last week, and they have 2 fairly sophisticated IT investigators who would be using EnCase. They also have some physical security guys who have no technology skills or interest in regards to digital types of evidence, but they're one of their internal customers on a very regular basis because, hey, I got this guy, it's one of our employees, and I've caught him stealing X, Y, or Z. What I'd like to do is go back and prove that his computer, he was here, he was online during this night, he came in that night and did these things. So they have to send him, here's his image, what do you want, what are you looking for, all these types of things. What you can do now is with the virtual server basically built up is you can map out a shared drive on the network at a company location. It's a little harder to do it externally. but I can now mount that drive in a write-blocked state. Basically, it's a copy of the drive. You're just mounting an image of the drive. And now that physical investigator, as long as he has permission to that map drive link, wherever it is on the network, he can now go in and look and he can stomp on it all he wants. He can scroll through it. He can see the metadata fields. He can look at the files. He can do what he wants and not worry about working off of a copy and then stomping it and then saying, come back, hey, what was the modified date before I touched it on this file? It allows him full visibility into that. So that being said, he can also do some of the tagging and things like that. If they come back and have this group is what I want, they can then create the tags, set it out, export it out. So there is some sharing and collaboration. I would not consider it an attorney review platform whatsoever.
Well, the only reason I'm saying it is, as you know, with a lot of the software that's out there now, especially in our world, you know, the InCase and the Clearwells, you know, from a pre-processing analytical aspect of that,
Right.
which still costs money, if you will. I mean, you say it doesn't cost money, but there's still money that's involved. Especially now with the smartphone app and being able to pull, you know, some of that data. You know, with now EnCase, you could do that relatively quickly.
Yes.
To see if you have anything. Is it worth?
Whether to move forward or not.
Well, that's
forward.
yes. Well,
we have EnCase.
Sure. Well, again, just for clarity, there is EnCase Forensic, which is what we're talking about here.
Right.
Our enterprise e-discovery application, it does have an early case assessment where lawyers they can skip this whole interface. They have a web interface behind their firewall where they can jump right in and look in this index. They can run keywords, nested proximity. We've seen 1,000 lines deep. It's fantastic what they can do, and they can do testing. They can run the keywords. It does stemming. So I type in DAV, and I see how many Davids there are, how many Daves there are, how many Da Vinci's there are, whatever it would be. It does the stemming for you at whatever point you stop. It shows me how many unique emails, how many unique documents, and how many specific hits for each of the keywords that I put in. And you can do it real powerful.
I can accept in Clearwell
Yeah.
some relativity and
Yeah, and then Relativity is one of our new partners. We just went to Relativity Fest in Chicago about a month ago. We're actually, again, I don't want to get off subject here on the e-discovery side, but we actually have an automated dump so that once we've done this targeted collection, initial filtering, processing based off whatever, the idea is that the operator can program the entire job. Collect X, Y, or Z from this custodians at these locations, these sources, bring it all in, deduplicate it by custodian or globally, whatever it would be, and then automatically push this data out into that location, inside or outside the firewall. So it could go to a service provider that utilizes Relativity. It would go right in with no load file whatsoever. It's an automatic ingestion piece. The EnCase operator sets it up, hits go, and walks away. Only has to come back and we'll have alerting to come in and say there's an exception or there's a dropped connection. The guy took his laptop offline. I can't keep connecting. So there'll be some reporting and alerting, but there's some really neat stuff. But that is our e-discovery product, so I didn't want to get into that so much. But no, that's fine. It's that's where I won't shut up because that's what I sell for the most part. And I'm sorry, I just want to get to the end real quick here. These are the pictures. Now, what these are when I synced with my Outlook contacts, certain people. At one point, I don't know, LinkedIn or something, I had a few of the pictures here. And that's why they're there. Normally, my phone would have more pictures, but I don't have a camera on this device. So it shows them all, and it gives you the path right behind it, too. Again, that's just the default report from the smartphone piece. Okay, I'm sorry, this minimized the window by accident. So when I say I want to process something, newly acquired evidence or a drive that I'm connected to, this is kind of the automated workflow that we now have. By default, most people are going to want to do a hash analysis. You're going to want to expand the compound files to see what's inside it. We had a customer test it. We officially sponsor 16 levels deep support. We've had customers do 64 levels deep. So nest, a zip within a zip within a zip within a Word document with an embedded X, Y, or Z, and 64 levels deep, and they saw all 64 files fully searchable. Now that takes a while to expand them all out, blow them back, but it went 64 levels deep, and that's the most to my knowledge has been attempted.
Finding a lot of trouble.
Well, they designed that. Yeah, that was in a test environment.
Yeah.
Find email, very common. You know what? I don't care about the email for what I want to do now. I would just uncheck that. Actually, I'm sorry. I've already acquired it, so now let me just check on processing. And now here's what I get to do. I don't want to check email because I don't care about email for whatever my case is in front of me. You know what? I do want to see what email is. Now, by default, this is what EnCase is going to call email. So it's not just saying email. You're going to get to see it's the PSTs, NSFs, etc. Internet artifacts, I want to see what that means. Oops. I can check that and go unallocated space as well, because that's where you're going to find it for web-based mail quite often. And it tells me, it repeats your criteria back to you in simple common English that you can export out into your reports, so that if you ever have to 2 years later come back and say, what exactly did you do or not do, your criteria is drafted right in front of you. If you ever need to repeat this, I ran this job against Dave's group share and his workstation and his laptop. Well, 3 months later we find out he's got a personal computer at home that he's using a lot for work. You know what? I don't want to recreate that job. I want to mirror that, and I can prove in English, not just because it's technology, but we would all understand, but it's very simple for an attorney or a jury to understand that, see, it says I didn't do it. Or it was a true, false, yes, no. I can search for keywords. Once I process this indexes, it gives me lots of options. And yes, I want to go ahead and index it. So these are the most common things people tend to do at a certain point. So the idea is, I've acquired this, I don't know what I want to do with it, what's coming up next. Well, you know what, I'm going to put it on this workstation, just kick it off and say, get that part done, especially the indexing. Once that is done, I can come in and run some real powerful searches anytime I want at my convenience and instant results. It's a really, really nice way to do it. Additional modules, instant message parsing. Yep, I want that. And it's going to basically by default look for AOL, MSN, Yahoo, and go ahead and search the unallocated, because that's where that or anything else will lead. I want to do some file carving. Again, now I'm adding more time to the processing, but the idea is I just check the boxes I want. I understand what I'm getting. I can drill down into any one of these options and say more specific, yes, this, no, that type of scenario. And then I click OK, and I walk away. Or I can jump right back into the evidence and start previewing it live while the evidence processor is running in the background. So that's one of the main workflow components that it's really much, much better about that. And I know we're right up on the time there, so had some more things I want to show, but I'm sorry, time is time. So that is, again, for the most part, the highlight of what's new in EnCase 7. Just like anything else, if I was to... well, never mind. I'll stop right there. I won't save that. This is, last thing, the new folder structure that it shows. It saves your email separate. If I chose find email, it would drop any email that I then save into that bucket, and that's where the report pulls it from.
What format would that be in, or would it be specific to where it came from?
It'd be whatever it was when it came from. It's a forensic copy bringing it back out.
Okay.
Yeah. Here, my export, if I created I want to blue check these items and bring those out. Here, that's where that goes. These are the tags that are created. Here's what's in there by default. The temp space, this is where you have to be careful because it will blow up. I did like a 20 gig drive, and it wanted like 60, 70 gigs of space at full speed. And I just said nope, and it kept going. So anyway, that is that. The smartphone report is included in the manual with a lot more detailed listing of very specifics of the operating system information. Let's just see that.
Just the QA on that alone is painful.
Oh, yes. Yes, it sure is. There's also a training guide, that T. Durden evidence file that was there. That comes with EnCase 7, and also the On-Demand Forensics 101 basic course. The manual comes with it. So when you get it, you get the user guide like you always would, but you also get a training guide and a training file that the training maps to. Very, very helpful to get you going, get to walk through some basic cases. It's outlined like a training book, so it's a little more logical in steps than a user guide. It's more reference-based. This is more left to right workflow stuff. So anyway.
That's great for those people who like to study on their own. I don't
Yes.
take a class.
Absolutely. And when you sign up for the online courses, you also get that. You would get a training file that you can download as well as a manual shipped to you. So you keep the manuals, obviously, if you wish. Most people do. So anyway, that's the highlight of it. Sorry for going over a minute or two here.
Excellent. Thank you. We appreciate that. So if you guys are ready, there's nobody online, so we'll just get started. You ready? Let's see. What do I have here? So this is just the title screen, but